Hello, Erlings. Welcome back to After Hours with Jimmy Thistle. Uh, Today we've got Michael Sargood, amazing fella. He's got an amazing Instagram page called Happy Without the Hooch. I'll put that in the show notes at the end as well. Just really incredible conversation with Michael. Michael's around my age, very similar but different circumstances. We both kind of ended up, I guess, in the same way. Drinking vodka to oblivion until something really needed to be done. Michael, was in some really sticky situations. Waking up in the middle of roundabouts in kind of park benches, things like that. I think a lot of us have been in similar positions, but I have to give a few trigger warnings. There is talk of suicide in here, but also really kind of hard drinking and narcotics as well. So take care when listening. I think a lot of these conversations are quite tough to listen for some people, but for a lot of people, but I hope that people can take a lot from them. There's not really there is a kind of overwhelming sense, I would say, that there's not really a single person that gets sober for a reason and regrets it. So I think that's kind of the underlying theme that if there is an issue with alcohol and you get sober, then it's potentially the best thing that you've ever done in your life. So we have some good laughs in the conversation, but as I say, there are some kind of tough conversations. So really do take care, but I hope that people take a lot from it. Remember to follow, leave a review, give me that 5-star review if you've enjoyed it, and share it around for people that you might think could gain something from it. But for now, sit back and listen for the similarities and not the differences.
Don't know what's going on. There you go. Now the menu's come up.
There he is.
You mean sideways?
Whichever is good for you.
That
I'm
way
not.
round?
Well, that even better. See more of you. How are you, man?
I'm okay, thank you. Yeah.
You're looking
Been watching.
fantastic, Michael.
I won't be if I continue eating like I have today. I've had a proper binge day. I've eaten like an absolute pig since the moment I got out of bed.
But have
I've
you
had two lunch, two dinners, a
have you
ton of
not
chocolate,
have you not been doing loads of running and working out and all that though?
and I've just given up the nicotine. I'm blaming the nicotine.
Yeah,
It's
but
day three, and I'm like, I'm like a gannet.
but if you're doing the exercise, mate, eat what you like. I mean, I used to do a lot of running, but I haven't done it for a while. But I've said I'm going to do the Great North Run this year. I'm signed up for it, so
Oh yeah.
I really need to start my training like soon. So yeah, yeah.
It's a half marathon, isn't it?
It is a half marathon. I've done it. I've done it a couple of times before, and those two I got in through a charity, so you had to raise X amount of money. This time I just went on a whim because the ballot came up, and I luckily got in through the ballot. So, now I have to do it. Yeah. So
Yeah, there is that sort of moment of realization, isn't there? It's like, oh, I said I
yeah,
was going to do this. It's coming up. Like at the time, it's 6 months, a year away, or whatever. Oh shit! All of a
yeah. It
sudden,
was it was about a year
what was
ago.
I thinking?
Yeah. So anyway,
Mm.
right. What I'll do is I'll start recording in a minute, and then when we say goodbye at the end, like I won't just cut it off. We'll hang around for a second and have a chat at the end, but we'll say goodbye for the kind of sake of the podcast.
Okay.
Um,
I'll
so
shovel the last bit of food in my mouth.
shove the
Mm.
last in your mouth. What did you have for tea or dinner?
Well,
Sorry.
my first dinner,
Yeah,
the
first.
first dinner, I had chicken wings, rice and veg, and then I had a load of chocolate. And we're going to make second dinner after this, which is lamb chops and
Nice.
salad and new potatoes.
I had what did I have? Tempura prawns and a wrap with loads of salad. So yeah, but This is the second day that I've like second time I've made something like that, and I've realized I don't have any mayonnaise in my fridge. It's like, why don't I write a list for the shops? Yeah. Anyway, Michael Sargood, welcome to After Hours with Jim Thistle. It's so good to have you on, man. So I really appreciate you finding the time to come on the podcast. What I like
Yeah.
to do is kind of this is it's kind of a well, it's a bit of a weird, not a weird format. I'm just making it up as I go along. So it's kind of like your show. You can say what you want, as much as you want, or as little as you want, or ask me any questions. But I guess what we want to know is really kind of where it started for you, like a little bit about your childhood, if you want to, and then when you had your first drink, and we'll just kind of take it from there.
Okay then. So where it all started.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, me and my drinking, that was quite late in life for me.
Okay.
I yeah, I was quite a a puritanical little kid.
Hmm.
Um, and I wouldn't drink, I wouldn't smoke, I wouldn't do anything. I was naughty, but not in those ways. I was just mouthy. And then I did, therefore, I think my first drink was when I was 17, which is, for British standards, that is quite late.
It is, yeah, yeah. But like that's the weird thing
And
for British standards. Like if you're America or whatever, they can't drink till they're 21, and they kind of keep to that because they're quite
yeah,
strict over there. But I guess how old are you? You about the same age as me, aren't you? I'm 45
um,
tomorrow, actually.
I'm yeah, about to turn 43, so yeah.
It's a little bit younger.
And
But 90s, it was like age drinking low.
I'm afraid the audio went a bit there, which isn't great for a podcast, is it? So do you
No.
want to?
I mean, it'll be recorded
Uh,
on my side. I was just waffling, but like I was gonna say, just carry on with
yeah.
what you were
But so that was quite late. That said, I said I was puritanical. I was smoking weed from the age of 12, but not in. And then tobacco from the age of 16. And then 17, I caved and I had a drink. I thought, well, I'll give it a go. I took a bottle of wine, I think, to a New Year. The most pathetic New Year's Eve party was me and two friends and a bottle of wine, and they didn't want any. Obviously, something's wrong with them. So I just drank the whole lot by myself and chucked up in the toilet, and that was New Year's Eve done. Um, but strangely, I recorded that as a pleasant experience and wanted to do it again, quite frequently.
saying.
And so I did. I then remember my first time out going to a pub. We were all underage, but we knew a pub where they wouldn't mind that because had a reputation for the underagers. And went in there. I drank. I think it was beer that time. I didn't take much before I chucked up all over the pool table. And then they tried to bundle me into a taxi, my friends, but I couldn't remember where I lived. So that was problematic. And again, obviously record this as a pleasant experience because I immediately wanted to go out and do it again. And the start of my relationship with alcohol is pretty much how it carried on. The only difference being that I was doing it more often and it took more alcohol for me to chuck up.
Mhm.
Um, and then for the last 10 years of my drinking, which was, as I stopped when I was 38, I didn't chuck up at all. I could drink as much alcohol as I wanted, plus more, and I was never sick because I built up such wonderful resistance. And actually, I think that was part of the problem because back in the party days when I might drink alcohol at the weekend to celebrate,
Mhm.
if I chucked up, that was generally the end of the night. I'd, wipe my face and go to bed. When I was no longer sick, I would just get deeper and deeper into blackout with ever worsening consequences. And I was doing it more often, so it wasn't even just for fun now. It was habit, and then eventually it was just dependency.
Yeah. And so when do you think the kind of dependency started? Was that at the end, like towards the latterly part of your drinking, or do you think you were dependent quite early on, or?
It's hard to tell, isn't it? I think the dependency, the physical dependency,
Hmm.
was probably just the last 2 to 3 years of
Yeah,
my drinking.
yeah.
Physical dependency. But I think the emotional, the psychological dependency on it
Yeah.
was probably there from very early on. Because the way I drank wasn't the way that apparently normal people, whatever they are, that's not how they drink. For me, it was sometimes it was to have fun. Like
Yeah.
I knew that I liked it, and then sometimes it was to self-medicate. I first used it to self-medicate, I think, when I was 18,
Hmm.
when I lost a friend,
Oh,
and then when it got really it changed me when I was about 27,
yeah.
and I'd been in a an abusive relationship for a number of years. I was planning to get out of it by moving in with my best friend,
Hmm.
and then she suddenly became ill. It was like on a Wednesday, and I went down to see her on the Saturday because I was living in Yorkshire and she was London, and she died before I got there. And that was my best friend, the only person I really spoke to honestly about things,
Oh,
and
God.
my escape plan as well. And she was just gone, and that hit me hard. And I
Yeah.
just fuck it. I just when I was coming back from work, I'd stop in my local little Sainsbury's local,
Yeah.
pick up a half bottle of gin or a half bottle of vodka. If I was ill, it was brandy. That was always my medicinal drink. And
Yeah.
then I just secretly drink that in the evening. And then
And
over the
so were
years, it
you
became a
still
little
in
bit.
this, sorry, were you still in this relationship? So that was why you were secretly drinking that. And yeah.
Yeah, I would put it in cups of coffee.
Yeah.
But I actually had to make sure the coffee was cold because if the coffee was hot, then the fumes would waft and could be detected. So I'd have cold instant coffee that was actually half vodka. It was absolutely vile, but it did the trick.
And how
Or I would,
how did you get round the smell of alcohol in your breath?
I didn't.
You didn't?
Um, but by the time they detected it, it was too late, wasn't it? So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. True, true, true. Yeah, no. And so like, going back a little bit, like what were you working as through your kind of 20s and 30s? What was your job and what is your job?
I was working in my twenties mainly in public relations. It was mainly for local authority, then for an energy company,
Hmm.
and I was the communications manager. So it was quite a responsible job.
Yeah, yeah, it's good to
And
be
I was
booted, I'm sure. Yeah.
um, it was quite high stress, so I like to let my hair down at the weekend, but also
Yeah.
alcohol's very good at relieving stress, I discovered, or I decided at some point.
For a short while.
So
Yeah.
that all I always had a reason, an excuse to drink.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it didn't. I always found the whole work thing and work drinks that was always very difficult because I think work drinks are just a cool game
Hmm.
because the idea is that you have to drink, otherwise you're a party pooper.
Hmm.
You're not a team player. Um, but you have to remember, no matter how much you drink, you're still actually representing the organization that you work for.
Yeah.
So don't misbehave. And I find alcohol and behaving myself. I mean, I struggle to behave myself sober. Um, Trying to behave myself drunk, but it's just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And you're among your friends, that's okay. But when you've got your manager and you're throwing coins at their head and calling them all the names under the sun and challenging them to arm wrestles, and then no, it doesn't go down well.
It's almost like the warning that's on the bottles, please drink responsibly. Like it's like we'll supply you with this responsibility taketh away our drink. But if you don't drink responsibly, it's not our fault anymore because we've said to you. So if you go out for your
Exactly. Before
do,
you.
we go out for your works do, and they're saying, we're going to buy you all the drinks tonight. They're all free, but please behave yourselves because you want it, you need to look good for our company. And it's like, what? Like you're going to get us pissed, but you want us to
Yeah.
act responsibly.
My first ever work drinks, actually, I was working for Liverpool City Council. It was one of my first half decent jobs, and
Yeah.
that was a free bar because that was back in the day when the public sector had money to piss up the wall, literally.
Mhm.
And I don't remember much other than it was a free bar and I was sick on the mayor of Liverpool's shoes
Oh,
whilst I was wearing them. And then my boss she got back on the train with me carrying a plastic bag in front of my mouth the
yeah.
whole way. And then I got home and my partner at the time opened the door and I just projectile vomited up the hallway. And he told me in the next morning that I'd lost my job and I panicked. I phoned my boss. That was just a mean trick to play. I hadn't, but the next day, the mayor of Liverpool did walk into the office with a
Oh,
very sore head. And he said how they were sick on his shoes, but doesn't know how he got there. And I was thinking, well, that was me because he was so hungover, he didn't really remember it either.
wow. He could have probably thought he did it himself if he was feeling that rough the next day.
Probably did.
And that's the thing. It's like, we'll get to yours in a bit, but I think from looking at your Instagram page, which is amazing, and all the things that you do, it's got a great kind of vibe to it. But I think when you were as bad as like you and I were, yeah, it's time to kind of knock on the head, or else we're 6 feet under. But like what you're
All
saying
above
there,
it.
when people wake up in the morning and they're having this like flashback, the shame, the kind of oh, what did I do last night? Or they've got millions of text messages saying, God, you were an absolute nightmare. When that starts to become a bit of a recurrence rather than a just laugh it off, I think that's when people need to start thinking about knocking it on the head. Like stop this thing before it gets to a later stage. Because the amount of people that I still hear about now, and they're in their 40s and 50s, and they're like, oh my God, you don't want to believe what I did the other night. And I'm like, why are you still doing that? Like this doesn't get any better, it
Yeah.
only gets worse.
So I thought the blackout was quite normal because I blacked out from very early in my drinking
Same.
career. I just like, and I blacked out almost every time. It was
Yeah.
very rare that I didn't black out. And I thought everyone was the same, but apparently they're not.
No.
Um, so maybe I was just better at it than most people. That's what I thought at the time. I'm just a better drinker. But the fear was real. I think the worst, because sometimes you'd come back with these unexplained, these mysterious drinking injuries, wouldn't you?
Hmm.
Um, and I remember it looked like I'd been dragged through a bush. I was covered in scratches and bruises. I had no idea where they came from.
Yeah.
And my partner at the time had said that I was crying when I got in. And all I was thinking was, if I've got all these scratches and bruises, it looks like I've been in a fight, mate, with someone with long nails.
No.
Mate, have I been in a fight with a woman? Or if I was in a fight, what if I won? I mean, I've never won a fight in my life, but I was so worried about it that I like every sort of half an hour, I'd be checking the local police Twitter account to see if there are any appeals for information,
Yeah.
and just in case it was
Yeah.
me, because I had no recollection of getting home.
Yeah. Someone in
I mean,
hospital saying this man attacked me, and yeah, because
hmm,
that's the thing. A blackout is a blackout, and like you say, I did it from a very early age, and I just thought it was the norm. I would if people went, "Oh my God, you were a nightmare last night," I just go, "Ha ha, yeah, yeah," and pretend that I remembered it because, like, I was kind of embarrassed, I suppose. I thought it was a normal thing, but I hated the fact that I'd lost memory that night. But then it just became the norm, and I think it's like you. I would just drink to oblivion from an early age. I wouldn't just have like a couple of beers or this. I start to realize now that my friends were probably watching what they were drinking, and they would have a limit. Whereas there was no limit for me. It was just like, right, where's the next drink? Where's the after party? Where do we get on to? Yeah,
and people that say, "How many drinks did you have?" And I'm like, "Who's counting?" I mean,
yeah. What, like, which
as many
ones?
as I can, please.
Yeah. Don't mix your grain, your grape. I was like, well, I'm gonna start off with beers, then I might have some wine, and then I'm gonna go to vodka or whiskey. So of course I'm gonna mix my grain and my grape.
God, I used to have this vile drink. I thought it was amazing. This magic potion. When I worked as a barman at the age of 18. Do you remember Gold Label barley wine? Absolutely disgusting.
Yep. Yep.
Came
Horrible
in little
stuff.
bottles. Absolutely vile. Well, I had my own version of snake bite that was, instead of cider and lager, I'd have cider and the gold label barley wine, which is 9%, have that in a pint glass. Obviously, there's still some room left, so you put a double shot of vodka in it, and then a bit of blackcurrant, and then I just have that, and that would be me done for the night when I was about 18.
I
By
was
the time
gonna
I got to
say,
the bottom, I was in a very happy place.
Yeah, that sounds like what
It
we
was.
used to give to people on their birthdays in Aberdeen when I lived up there. This was like late 90s. And we called it a dirty pint because we would just put like everything in it and they would have to finish this drink off. And by the end of it, like they get like three-quarters of the way through it and they'd be absolutely wrecked because there was all sorts in there. But that sounds pretty horrendous what you were what was your favorite magic tipple? Yeah.
Well, I wasn't drinking for flavour, and I think even at that point, I wasn't deluding myself into thinking that I drink because I like the flavour. I don't really like the flavour of any alcoholic drink. I'd rather have a Diet Coke, thanks. If I was drinking for flavour, it wouldn't be
Well,
beer or
the thing with me
maybe Jack Daniels.
Yeah, the thing with me is I like the alcohol flavor. So like if there was something that was really strong and I could taste
Mm.
the kind of ethanol flavor coming through on that, that's what I really towards the end, that's what I craved. Do you know what I mean? So when people like and I'll have the odd alcohol free stuff now, but I'm not a big fan of it because like as you said, I wasn't drinking, this is a nice whiskey or this is a saying I was drinking it because it was going to get me pissed. So what didn't really
Mm.
matter about what form it came in. So drink the alcohol free stuff. Like, I'll have maybe a Guinness Zero in a pot in in a restaurant or whatever. But I'm not going out of my way to buy them and have them in the house like a lot of people do. What are your thoughts on alcohol free stuff?
I think they serve a purpose.
Yeah,
There's certain ones that I enjoy. Some people find them really useful, and others, other people can be like, "Oh, you're still glorifying alcohol. It's sort of bad for your mind that
yeah.
you're trying to replicate it." So I think it's a personal experience. I
Oh
know
yeah,
that
yeah,
people, some people who do 12 steps have been sort of, I suppose, taught to steer clear of them. And that makes sense, I think, in the early days. But I also know lots of people who do 12 steps and have ignored that bit and find that they still enjoy the taste of an alcohol-free drink.
yeah,
Um, and Alcohol Change UK did a study on it, on whether people found it helpful or a hindrance to sobriety. And about 80% of respondents said they were actually a helpful tool for them. So I think it's just your personal take. I didn't go anywhere near them for about 6 months.
yeah,
I suppose a lack of awareness and a lack of interest, really, because as I said, I wasn't missing the flavour. I
yeah.
was missing that moment when I got in from home, when I got it home from work, and I had a bottle of spirits, and I just open the cap, and I'd just go glug glug glug. That's probably about six shots in one go, and then I'd get a glass out to make it look more civilized, get some ice, but I'd already had it. It's
Yeah.
just that initial glug glug glug, and then some relief. Oh, thank God, that's
Well,
I
that's
can feel it beginning now.
I mean, I guess for me, like what you're describing there, like I would go around when I lived in Hull with my ex, and I would go around to do the shopping. Like, she had the kids there, so it was always like, yeah, I'll go to the shop and I'll get us some wine or whatever. I probably, I might have stashed some vodka in the toilet, in the cistern, or behind the stem of
That
the.
was my favourite at the end. I thought I was a
Yeah,
genius. I thought, oh my God, this is pure genius because it's clean water in there. It keeps the alcohol cold. I can just pretend I'm going for a piss all the time and take another quarter of a bottle. And I thought I was the only one. But since I stopped drinking, I've talked to other people
it's
who
a
maybe were
classic.
heavy. Yeah, everyone's doing it. Everyone's
Yeah.
hiding in the system.
Because the toilet's the best place for it. You got a lock on the door if you need to. No one's going to burst in
Yeah.
when you're in the toilet. But what I would do is, so I would go to the shop and I'd maybe buy one or two bottles of wine for us, but that wouldn't be enough for me. So then I would go and you get the
Mhm.
little, I guess they're like a quarter bottle of wine. I get them from Aldi. I
Yeah.
would get like two. So on the way back from the shop, I would be like just glugging them down just to get me back to like a kind of normal feeling again. And I guess it was withdrawal at that point. I had no idea that I was withdrawing that bad. I'd probably just think it was hungover from the day before, but my body was basically reacting to not having alcohol for that full day. And this was me about to get it. So I would just glug it before I got in the door. And then I would just act like normal. We'd get the wine, and then I'd pay off to the trips to the toilet to get behind the system. Yeah. Uh, it's scary.
I
So
used to
so so go back,
I
Michael.
share
So what go on, sorry.
But then I also used to have the shared wine, and my partner would be, "Oh, you're a bit of a lightweight. You're getting that's because yeah, I'm not just drinking that wine. I've got my own secret stash."
Yeah.
Um,
But
and
we
I
thought we were
knew
being
that,
civilized.
yeah, well, I knew I wasn't being, and I knew that there was partner had some spirits as well in the cupboard. Or if
Mhm.
I deliberately leave a bottle of spirits in the cupboard because I knew that was the one that my other half was monitoring. I caught him
Right.
monitoring it, so I knew that if I took a little bit from there, that's okay because he thinks I've had a little bit of alcohol. So I would have a little bit from there, and then I'd go and continue with the wine that was in the toilet, the vodka that was in the toilet. So and then so it looks like if he's only looking at that to monitor my alcohol, then it
Yeah.
looks like I'm drinking just a sensible amount, really. But that was just to fool him because I knew he was trying to catch me out. And in my mind, he was the bad person because he's trying to be controlling,
Yeah,
telling
yeah,
me
yeah.
what I should or shouldn't. He's just actually giving a shit about me killing
Yeah.
myself slowly.
Hearing about you. And that's the thing, like how crafty and clever we think we're being, you know. I mean, there was one point where I actually put like my ex had young kids and they loved their Cheerios or chocolate pillows or whatever. They would never eat the bran flakes. So I'd bought this box of bran flakes trying to be healthy at one point. And so instead of actually having to go to the toilet every time, if I was in the kitchen like topping up our wine, I had put it
Yeah,
inside. I'd put my little half bottle of vodka inside the bran flakes. No one was ever going near that. Do you know what I mean? I thought like not in a month of
yeah.
Sundays that they would go in there. So that was where that was heading. Yeah. But I think if we put anywhere near as much effort as we put into our crafty hiding and, conniving ways into recovery, then you're already 90% of the way there. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Mhm.
I'm about to
I'm going to
say,
sneeze.
go on,
I'm going to sneeze. I've got a cold.
look at the light.
God, I'm sorry. Ah,
Apparently,
yeah.
if you say pineapple, it stops you going to sneeze. I don't know. That's what my fiance
I
tells me.
don't know. I don't. I've got quite. I'm a very sneezy person. You know how like in Japan, it's like very offensive to sneeze. I'd be constantly
Yeah.
offending people because if I'm going to sneeze, I can't help but make a massive noise. I mean, that was probably one of the most reserved sneezes I've ever done. Normally, I could be located in a different part of the country just by the sneeze alone. It would give away my location.
I'm fascinated
Anyways,
that it's actually rude to sneeze in Japan, but we can go
yeah,
into that another time. And so,
no, go
going
fart
back,
if you like. Don't sneeze.
Gail, go say again. Sorry.
So fart as much as you like, but don't sneeze.
Oh yeah, that's just it's a big bizarre country, lovely country, but oh well, I'd love to go, but strange. Well, I suppose we say that people have got strange different rules and things in different countries and traditions and that, but ours are probably just as weird. Do you know what I mean? The fact that we sneeze in trains and stuff is probably massively rude. But so you going back, Michael, what would you say was the kind of the darkest moment of your kind of drinking career, if you want to call it a career, and when you kind of really decided enough is enough?
I suppose the last couple of years of my drinking were
Yeah.
the darkest when I was between about 36 and 38. And by this point, I mean, I was drinking from Tuesdays until Sundays, really. I tried to have Mondays off,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
but
Mondays
for
off.
my health.
Yeah. Yeah. And
But
probably because you must have been absolutely hanging on the Monday then.
I was hanging every fucking day.
Yeah.
I was just trying to do the day to 5, and then I can feel normal again. And Mondays, I was shaking. I was shaking quite, and I couldn't concentrate on anything. I felt shit. I was always sweating. Like I turn up. It was a 4-minute walk for me to work, and it looked like I'd run a marathon by the time I got there. And I used to have to pat myself down with a load of that blue tissue stuff you have, because I was soaked by the time I got to work just walking 4 minutes. Um, but in terms of my mental health, I mean, it's never really been good. Um, and at that time, I mean, I kind of, I was suicidal for a long while, and every now and then, if I got really pissed, I overdose. There's quite a few overdoses. Oh,
on
or I
on
just I, I mean, a real red flag is I used to often go to bed with a knife under my pillow because I wanted to kill myself, but I hadn't got the courage. And I thought, well, maybe the courage will come to me at some point during the night. And just in case it does, well, here's the knife ready to finish the job off.
and this was
And
while
I was
you
just
were
kept
pissed as well. Yeah,
all hungover.
yeah,
Sometimes it's normally like the morning after, like the real low.
yeah.
Sometimes I'd lost my job. I've had a few arrests. I'm always injuring myself. I
Hmm.
managed to get to the age of um, 32 without any sort of serious injuries, no broken bones or anything.
Hmm.
Between the ages of 32 and 38, I've managed to break five. And I don't remember breaking any of them.
I was going to say they're all alcohol
Um,
related, so I'm pretty sure they were then. Yeah, if
yeah.
you remember it.
I mean, I broke my leg in three places. My foot was pointing 90 degrees in the wrong direction.
Wow.
This was on the side of a mountain in Italy. I hadn't
Mm.
done any skiing, but I decided to do the après skiing. Um, and I, it'd been snowing heavily for days. And so when I was in the snow, I'd walked out of the resort. I don't know. I don't remember it. I don't,
Yeah.
but uh, I don't remember leaving the bar, but what I do remember is waking up, being in agony, trying to stand up and realizing I couldn't use my leg. And I was really deep in snow,
Uh-huh.
so much so that I was digging a hole for my face so that I could breathe. And every time I dug, more snow fell on top of my face, and I was thinking, this is it. I have had it. This is going to be this is how I die. Um, and I kept on crying out for help. It was about midnight, and eventually an Italian woman, so I'm told, found me.
Mhm.
Um,
And you were just there
uh,
face down,
I was face up.
or
I was
face
on
up.
my back,
Yeah.
and then just digging an air hole so I could breathe and cry for help.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's just, and you have no
And
recollection.
I was in private in the hospital. I cried about it, but when I got home, it was just a big joke how I'd gone on a skiing holiday. I'd sent my workmates this a postcard. I
Hmm.
said, "Dear council plebs, I hope you're all having a rotten time, swamped in red tape and bureaucracy, whilst I'm taking on the slopes and winning." And it had a picture of a ski jumper, and I said, like, arrow towards it and me. And then I came back having not done any skiing, but still having a broken leg. And yes, I it took me I was on in a wheelchair and crutches for 4 months. I had three operations, and it took me a total of a year to in, walk again properly. And I just made it a big joke
I guess,
and carried on.
I guess we kind of pass it off as a joke sometimes because of the shame and because of how we
Yeah,
don't really know how to react what we've done to ourselves in a state of drunkenness, and it's like, oh my God, why have I done this? So we have to laugh it off, otherwise, we're going to be in tears. Yeah,
we can admit that we've actually got a problem. Yeah,
yeah,
and I was obviously I was a little immobile with a broken leg and plaster around it, and so I was stuck in my flat, and I managed all of I think nearly a week staying indoors in the flat, and then it was like, no, I can't do this anymore. I need to be liberated. So even though I could barely move, I got my crutches out and I
mhm,
went into town to hit the pub. It's like, I could barely walk sober, and I had to hop. I had to keep obviously the leg that was in plaster had to be off the ground at all points,
yeah.
and I was struggling to do that sober, and then went to the pub and got absolutely wasted
Oh,
with
Jesus.
my class on my own. I didn't go out with anyone, no one to help me. I just thought, no, I'm going to hit the town.
Yeah,
I can't be expected to stay indoors and behave all the time. I've done that for a whole week now.
yeah. That's enough. I'm perfect to the pub now. I this is my room. Been in for a week, and so how did that fare home from? as well being absolutely battered.
Really badly, actually. Surprisingly, that didn't end well.
I had
Yeah. I think I was barred from somewhere that night still with my leg in plaster.
Well, they maybe didn't
Um,
have any kind of wheelchair access, so they were feeling bad, so they thought we'll just bar him. We'll say
yeah,
he's been racist and we'll bar him for that so he can't come back. Yeah.
that was it.
Uh,
I think I was probably knocking everything over, falling over, and acting like a total slag, which was usually what was why I drank. It gave me an excuse to do all those things. Those were my hobbies.
It's like the alter ego, isn't it? You become this person that you think is the real you, and that person's so much funnier and so much more charismatic and so much more interesting. And I've watched videos of myself back, and I'm really none of those things, you know. I might
Oh
be
God, yeah.
funny for a slight, maybe an hour or two at the beginning of the night, and then it just descends into utter chaos and drivel and nonsense. What were you overdosing on?
Anything I could find around the flat.
Right.
Um,
Oh, like prescriptions and things like that, or
well, I don't want to incriminate anyone, but my ex-partner was a nurse, and sometimes there was always lots of supplies of painkillers and things,
yeah,
anything that could ever be needed. I'm not sure how legal they were, whether they all had prescriptions. So I'd find things, just just mainly painkillers.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah. That's the
and
stuff.
it's bad enough. And then my poor dad, like sort of coming out at 2 in the morning or whatever to go to the A&E, trying to enjoy his retirement, and his 40-year-old, well, 38-year-old son's still acting like he's 17 and getting him up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, but they do it.
So
They do it because they love us. I mean, I put my mum through absolute hell, and it's a wonder she still even talks to me. But she does, and she loves me, and she's just so glad that I've kind of turned this corner and managed to get myself sober. But I'm sure your dad's exactly the same. Like he must be over the moon. Is he still with us? Sorry. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, he is, yeah,
Yeah. So I bet he's over
enjoying
that
it.
you're sober and living your best life.
Yeah, he's pleased. He doesn't have to worry now, I think.
Yeah.
Ours was just like constantly a worry for him.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
able
it's
to have a
nice.
conversation with you.
Yeah, we're a lot more open with each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it got to the point of drinking that I was unable to hide anything from my dad anymore. He'd seen it all, so there was no point trying to keep up this pretense that I'm a civilized person who's got his shit together, because there's only a certain amount of visits to A&E, and seeing you in that state where you're spilling all your secrets anyway,
Yeah.
that the pretense is gone. You might as well just be honest now.
Well, they learn our habits. I mean, my mom was over here in the Isle of Man, and I was in Hull, and she would phone, and it would be like I'd be like, oh, I've dodged her call for a couple of times. I need to speak to her this time, and I'd put on this, which I thought was a brilliant sober voice, and the minute I said hello, she'd be like, "Have you been drinking?" And I'd be like, "Nope, nope, not at all." And then it would all just, yeah, it would descend into a fight because
Yeah.
I'd be arguing that black was white, and she'd be like, "No, white is black, and you are pissed, and I can hear it." And she should have just hung up the phone on me, but that would happen frequently, and it's because they know what their son sounds like normally, and as soon as you answer it pissed, then it's hard to hide
I
that.
didn't answer the phone text. So that would rouse my dad's suspicion. If I wasn't answering the phone, that would be
Mm.
one sign. And then he could tell if I sounded rough in the morning, obviously. And then if I saw him, he could just tell by my eyes and
Yeah,
by the
yeah.
bags. Or whatever. He could just tell. He's like, "Oh, you've been drinking last night, weren't you?" Oh, yes. There's no point pretending. You can probably smell it anyway. And I was
Well,
the same with my last partner was had a drink problem like me. That's what we bonded over. And
Mm.
and also a bit of the old marching powder. And I could tell I'd stopped drinking, and I could tell even that what annoyed him the most
Uh-huh.
was I could tell when he texted me. I could tell by the words he used and the style of the texting. It's like, you've been on the white stuff, haven't you? Well, yeah, I'll speak to you tomorrow then.
And so you weren't living together at this point with him, and was that so when you got sober, was that the time that you got sober now and remained sober?
We were living together, actually.
Right.
We were both drinking together. I stopped, and he was meant to stop, but he lasted 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then, sort of 14 months later, he was still drinking, and I could tell when and drugging. It wasn't every day, but it was like as soon as some money went in the account. I put in my diary whenever I knew there was going to be money going into his account on different days, and then mysteriously, like by midnight, be like, oh, I'm just going to nip out to here because my friend needs a charge or whatever. And then that was it. Oh, I'm not going to see him for 2 days.
Hmm. And that's it.
And
It's just
oh,
money's in.
it was so predictable. And in the end, I had enough of it because he'd come back and he'd be banging his head against the wall because, well, drink, drugs, and schizophrenia mixed together, they don't go well together. And so, banging your head against the wall at 2 a.m., I'd be hiding the knives. And then it's like, okay, I've got to get up in 3 hours now because I've got to drive to Tottenham. I've got to get up at 5 to start getting to work. Um, and so in the end, I kicked him out, and
Yeah, and
that
I
meant
bet it's hard, but I guess, like I mean, I was in a kind of codependent drinking relationship way back, and one of us would both decide to stop, and then one of us would go out
yeah,
and bring a
there was
bottle
one when
home. Yeah. And it's so difficult. So well done you for what, 14 months living with that. And I know it wasn't every day, but still being able to maintain your sobriety when you've got that going on. So I guess you just had to, you've given them the benefit of the doubt for so many times, and then you've just got to look after yourself. And yeah.
yeah, and it sorted him out actually because I felt awful because it literally meant me kicking him out meant he was going to the homeless hostel, and I knew that wasn't a nice place, and that there'd be people with like serious addictions there.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, oh God, if he's already doing this, is he going to end up on crack and heroin as well? I mean, is it going to go that low? And his first week, I said, look, I love you, but I can't live with you
Hmm.
because I've got my life to get on with, and I just can't do this anymore. So I, I'll be there, but from a distance. Um, and the first couple of weeks, he was beginning to try and make friends there, which meant going to the pub, and it was like, oh God. And then he had noticed that people there who were also living there were being kicked out because of drink and drugs. Some of them getting up and they were going out for like, to get some heroin at 10 a.m. And he's like, okay, I don't need friends here. I'm just gonna keep myself to myself. And I don't want to be made street homeless. I don't want to be kicked out of the homeless shelter because of this. And he's kept himself to himself, just stopped drinking and hasn't drunk as far as I know. Well, I think he drank once
Uh-huh.
since. And so that's been a good 3 years now, 2 or 3 years.
And is he still in the homeless shelter, or has he picked his life up, or?
No, and so all the other people who are going out drinking and stuff ended up on the streets,
Yeah. Yeah.
bar about one of them, and he ended up with about the best accommodation he could get, which was it was a nice flat shared with one other person that was owned and operated by the mental health charity Mind, and it was for people recovering from mental health conditions,
Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah, I remember.
obviously it
Yeah.
was. And it was really nice. It was nicer than my flat. I'd go out there half the time because you could have visitors and stuff. They had a curfew and things, but they had on-site support.
Yeah.
It was a nice, friendly community. It was like, well done. You
Yeah.
because you've stopped taking drugs, you've ended up with really good sort of accommodation. He's got his own. We're not together anymore, but he was able to stay there for 2 years and then
Mhm.
have his own um sort of council flat. So he's got accommodation. He's getting back into volunteering and work and yeah, building a life.
And
So
it's just not
um,
hanging about with the wrong people, isn't it? I know we
yeah.
can, we've only got ourselves to blame, but obviously if we've got that temptation around us, it's very difficult, especially when you're at your lowest. I mean, that is, being ending up in a homeless shelter. I've had many kind of rock bottoms, but never, thankfully ended up in a homeless shelter. But to be able to build yourself back up from that, that is so commendable. So what was it for you that kind of really was the kind of the end point that you knew you needed to kind of do this and get sober, and how did you
Really?
do it?
God. But there's a couple of it. So I first stopped drinking actually. It was in the March of 2020. So it was just before lockdown.
Hmm.
I know I was suspended from work on full pay, and that was because of drinking actually. And I didn't really I was because I was suspended and full pay, I had nothing to do, so I just drink, and the drinking was getting worse and worse whilst
Yeah,
I was suspended.
getting paid for it.
Um, whilst they investigated, yeah, on gardening leave.
Yeah.
And I'd I knew I wanted and needed to stop drinking, but I just didn't know how to do it. And I couldn't do it whilst I was at that point living on my own.
Mm.
And I knew I I needed some help. And I phoned my dad and I said, would you mind if I came and stayed with you for a bit? Because I just know that if I'm on my own here with my own thoughts and the only people I socialize with being heavy drinkers,
Hmm.
because you find that when you're a heavy drinker, the only people who will tolerate you and forgive you for being so awful are people who are in the same boat.
100%.
Um,
Yeah.
and my dad was quite relieved and said, "Yeah, come and stay with us." And I was thinking maybe I'd stay a couple of weeks because that'd be enough to sort your life out, wouldn't it? And then a few days later, it was lockdown.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
So okay, it's gonna be more than a couple of weeks now. So I ended up staying there about 3 months,
Hmm.
and before going back, and I didn't. I stopped drinking for that 3 months. I hadn't got any invitations to go out. We weren't allowed to go out, and I kept it up until the October, and then in the October I was out in the pub and I hadn't drunk all night, and it was that sort of semi-lockdown period where the pubs closed at 10 and you were supposed to have only 6 people at a table or whatever rule it was that week.
Yeah.
And and I decided right at the end I'd have one drink, and I decided to have another. And then we broke lockdown and went back to my friend's place. Because I was meant to be helping him with decorating his bedroom anyway, but it ended up being a few people there and drinks, and
Partygate.
so yeah, so that one drink, well, the next morning, I was in a police cell,
Oh.
and the drink continued until February. So the one drink lasted from October till February, by which point I was in the mental health unit again, and I I was and moved back in with my parents and
Yeah.
started again.
And when was that? So that
And
would
that's
be
what
like March
wrecking
2021. Yeah.
February 2021.
February 2021. Oh,
Yeah.
so you're
So
about 4 years.
it'll be 4 years on the 17th of Feb.
Wow. Well done, man. Well done. That's amazing. Do you know what? It's just so reminiscent of that one drink when we say, right, we've done so well. This is me, this is my new life, but I'll just have this one time and then I'll
Yeah,
go
I've
the next day. And it just ramps up, escalates so quickly. And then you're back to where you were, like, before you quit again. It's crazy.
I bet you are. When you think that you've hit rock bottom, you'll find there's a whole level lower than that you can go sometimes. And that was awful, that period, those few months. But it taught me a painful but important lesson about how fragile sobriety is. It only takes if it's so easy, so hard fought for, and so easily lost.
Somebody said to me, and they're a good friend. They just kind of they weren't like asking me if I wanted to drink or anything like that. They just said to me like, "Are you ever going to have a drink again?" And I said, "Well, do you know what? Like, I said, let's put it this way. and I think I was like 3 years sober at this point, and I said, chances are I could go out tonight and have a glass of wine or a beer and be able to just put it down. But I said, if there's a 0.01% chance that I'd be right back to where I was before I quit, why would I want to take that chance? And they were like,
Yeah, why do you respond?
fine. And actually, the chances of me going back to where I was are probably a lot higher. But I like to say, if even if it's a 0.1% chance, I wouldn't take the chance, because I don't miss it anymore. I don't miss that dread, that like shame, that fear, that hangover, the withdrawal. There's just none of it that buzz that you get for, or I got for maybe the first half an hour, 40 minutes of having that first drink of the day is really not worth going back for. Yeah, I just
No,
don't.
there's nothing I miss about my old life. My life to other people now because probably look really boring. I like to sleep when it's dark. I like day trips. I was even considering getting a National Express sort of couples card thing so we could visit some lovely sites.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. People think they're having a great time when they're drinking, but if you observe them with sober eyes, what are they doing that is so fun? They're just talking over each other and being rowdy. Actually, what they're doing is really bloody boring. It's just they're drinking a chemical that tricks them into thinking they're having a good time, but actually what they're doing is really boring. And I was, I noticed that I don't get bored anymore.
Hmm.
I am never bored. I used to hate being on my own and I used to struggle with boredom. Boredom was such a trigger, but my brain these days just it keeps itself entertained.
Hmm.
I think the ADHD probably helps there. But like for example, I was driving back from Manchester. It was a 6 hour drive. When I got home, I realized I still hadn't got round to turning the radio on yet. But my mind was very happy keeping itself entertained for the whole 6 hours. No one else in the car,
Hmm.
just my brain thinking. I enjoy thinking. And I'm just, I don't know what happened, but yep, since I stopped drinking, I think one of the things you learn to do is keep yourself entertained.
Yeah.
I don't have this constant need for external sort of entertainment.
Yeah. But I think it's because
Uh,
we learn how to be comfortable with ourselves. And I think this
yeah,
constant distraction in life, whether it be the radio or the TV on in the background, or, like, I think these are all distractions from being comfortable, being just within yourself. And I'm like you, I'll just sit in the cottage sometimes without the radio on. I'm not even reading. I'll just be sitting thinking. Do you know what I mean? I don't need to have this external kind of distraction on. Um,
that's a nice place to be. Just,
yeah.
I was comparing it like when I was drinking and was depressed and I really didn't like myself. And when you don't like yourself and you're on your own, it's like living with a housemate that you hate. So it's horrible.
Yeah.
I'm
Do
quite
we
okay with
drink
myself
for?
now. I quite like my own company. It's all right.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't
And
do
you don't
things
need
that
to
would be a
drink to
shame
escape
to do.
anymore.
No, I don't. I'm not trying to escape. I'm quite happy with my boring little life.
Yeah, but it's Michael, it's not boring. I'm exactly the same as you. Like I
Yeah.
love going for hikes with my fiance, and it sounds like you've got a great new partner as well. But the thing is, the people that are going drinking, like, and I see them there. Everything revolves around the drink, whether it be a party or this event that they're going to, or this, like, they fill their lives with these things that include the drinking, because the drinking is associated with whatever it is they do. Don't get me wrong, I used to go hiking and I would drink a bottle of dark rum while I was up Snowdon drinking this full bottle of dark rum, and I was like, oh yeah, you need it for medicinal, it's fine, it's it helps with the sugar intake, and it's absolute bullshit. But I enjoy doing things now, like you say, where alcohol's not involved, and I don't think it's boring at all. I think it's just living life. Um,
And then just calling it a day when you've had enough and going to bed and sleeping and
yeah,
doing something nice the next. I just had this perpetual fear of going to bed. It was like, no, I haven't seized enough joy from this day yet. I can't go to bed. Hasn't been the day has not been good enough.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but now it's like I'm that's fun of it. I love sleeping. I love
Well, I love
sleeping
getting
and
up
wake.
early. Since getting sober, like my body clock. I mean, I get up at 6 for work anyway. Well, it has to be 6:03. I don't like getting up on the actual hour or 6:05. It's got to be a kind of odd number, although five is an odd number. But do you know what I mean? It's not the 5 or the 10 or the 15. It's got to be 6:03 or 6:01. Anyway, that's just my OCD. But yeah, I have to be an early riser these days. So I'll go to bed at like 10, 11 o'clock. If I'm up past 12, I'm going to feel it the next day because I like to get up at 6, especially when the sun starts getting up around that time and earlier. It's the best of the day. And I know it's a cliche, but it is true. I'm not, people are missing
I'm,
out. Then.
I don't know. I can't decide whether I like getting up early or not now. I certainly didn't, but now in the job that I'm in, I have to get up at 5:30. So if I wasn't doing it, I don't think I would. I'd probably still have to. I am a naturally lazy person, I think.
So what is the job, Michael?
Well, at the moment, I'm working on Tilbury Docks for very little money, and I love it though. There's little
Okay.
stress. It kind of pays the bills. I do need to earn more. I've come to that reality. But
Yeah.
I'm this year I'm hoping to do my HGV license, so that should help because I can work in a similar sort of industry, but better money and not so much sort of stress about scraping by all the time,
I
which is
know.
I like my life in every way, but I've built up debts from 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 the drinking and the repercussions of it, hefty legal fees, um, which
We're
I've
going to
just never
call
got on top of.
Mickey. Yeah.
Sorry,
Are we going to call you long distance Mickey then in the future, or long distance
you never
Mike?
know. We could do.
Yeah.
You could do. I've just been. It's early days here. The problem is I've got to raise money to pay for the training,
Yeah.
whilst I'm just scraping by. Well, I want to earn more,
Yeah.
but till I do, so I'm probably gonna. I've decided to turn myself into a charity. I've been
Okay.
doing lots of charity fundraising for Alcohol Change UK, but I've come to the
Yeah, no, I noticed
realization.
that. I mean, it is good to do the voluntary work, but I'm like you. It's like it's also better if you get paid for your time as well.
Yeah, but I was thinking I'm probably a bigger charity case. So I was wondering if I could just turn myself into a charity.
Just flip it round. Just flip it round.
Mm.
Well, I suppose you could
How
set up
about the
one of these.
middleman? If you want to help an alcoholic, just give your money to me.
Yeah, yeah. Good. Set up a GoFundMe page for Michael's long distance truck training.
I have done. I started doing that today.
Yeah, why not, man? Why not? There's so many people doing it. It's like, you know what? Like,
£2,000 and I can have my license.
yeah, yeah. You'll get it in no time, mate. I mean, you've got enough followers on Instagram. I'm sure
Mm.
they would. What would it be? Like £2 a pop? I think even one. How many followers have you got now? Got like 20
I
on.
know, but no, I've got about 10,000. So of that,
10,000.
you can expect about 100 people to actually see your post. So yeah, if
Exactly.
they all gave like £200,
Yeah.
then I'd be laughing.
You'd be laughing. Well, maybe a pound from each, then you'd be laughing. I mean, the thing is, yeah, it's weird that how you get like I think I've got about 5,000 followers, but only about 100 people see my posts, and it's mental. I don't know why that is or what. Maybe actually 4,900 don't actually like my posts. They just follow me for
Probably.
shits and giggles. That could be the truth.
Or maybe
I'm
they're just
blaming the
bots.
algorithm.
They're not even real people, but you've fought hard to gain them.
Yeah. I went on one of these apps and just said, "Give me all these followers." If you scroll down, they're
Yeah.
all they're all they're all Russian or something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where do you see the next couple of years going for you, Michael? Obviously, you want to get you move up in the kind of long distance haulage world, but for your sobriety and Alcohol Change UK.
I don't really know because I suppose I feel like it's just my normal now. I'm
Yeah,
talking less about sobriety because I kind of run out of things to say
yeah,
and it doesn't feel so raw. And I'm sort of moving on to, well, what other things do I want in my life? Instead of talking about what I'm no longer doing, what do I actually want to do? So I, I want to get in a position where I'm financially solvent, number one, because then I can do the other things I want, which
yeah.
is mainly, I want a job that I can't take home with me. That's nice because I've really enjoyed not working in a corporate environment. I'm a bit of a round peg in a square hole
Yeah.
if I try and conform to that environment. Um, and just family, friends, stable relationship, and doing the things I enjoy. I enjoy being out in nature. After a year of trying to run, I've started enjoying it. I never thought that would happen. I love camping, wild camping. Although I've vowed never to return to Scotland. Um,
Why?
and
Hang on, go back.
uh,
You can wild camp in England. I know you do, and you can as long as you leave it as you found it. Scotland, you can literally camp in someone's garden. There's not a law against that. You can do what you want up there. So why would you never go back to my beautiful home country, Michael?
well, I'm half Scottish, so I
That is
thought
right.
I should. I thought I should visit the place,
Yeah.
and so I'd before I'd given up drinking, I had a couple of weeks off of work, and again the same sort of thing happened. I found that after 2 days I was really bored, so I decided just to pack my camping stuff in my rucksack,
Hmm.
and I got a coach up to Scotland, and it all went tits up from day one. Um, I missed the bus because someone trucked themselves in front of the train on the way to London. So as I arrived, my coach was disappearing. It was late. It was 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday, and I couldn't afford a hotel. So I just said, "Well, what other buses have you got that go vaguely towards Scotland?" And I was meant to be going to Inverness, but they said, "You take this one to Glasgow."
Yeah.
You have to stop in Birmingham at like 2 a.m. until 5. And so I did that and slept next to a heroin addict on a bench in Birmingham bus station. Arrived in Glasgow, um, I got up to where my new route was going to be, I can't remember where it is. That big lakey thing. I keep on
Oh,
saying the
well, I mean,
Trossachs.
the big lakey things, loads of lochs,
Yeah,
I think is
the
the
big lake.
word.
Yeah, in the national park. Why has it slipped?
Loch
Where the
Ness,
hell did I? No, 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 no. That's where I ended near
Loch
there.
Lomond,
Yes,
Loch
Loch
Lomond.
Lomond. Well,
Yeah,
I'd read all about how you can do wild camping in anywhere in Loch Lomond.
yeah.
Well, so I got there, and for an hour I was walking. Yes, you can technically, as you said, but
Yeah.
everywhere's a bloody golf course, isn't it? So I couldn't actually put the tent up anywhere. So in the end, it was getting dark, and I was like, I've just got to put my tent up wherever I can, which was a lay-by to a road. So I
Mhm.
had these lorries going past me dangerously close all night because if it got any darker, I wouldn't have been able to see. So I had the first night drug addicts in Birmingham bus station, second night in a lay-by because everywhere was a golf course,
Yeah,
and then night three, I actually found a campsite that night. It wasn't wild campsite. Like, I need a shower,
yeah.
and that's when I discovered midges. I thought, what's that cloud there over the lock? I was like, what? And it just came towards me, and I realized it was all midges, and they detected me. And I was trying to put up a tent with one hand because the other one, I was just waving a coat above my head, helicoptering it to keep the midges out. Finally, got the tent up with one hand, got in, and I thought, well, I'm safe now. I've got the mosquito net. Oh no,
No, they come in.
midges can crawl through the little holes of mosquito nets. They're not the same creature.
Yeah, yeah.
And then rained the whole week until I got the bus on the way back, and then the sun came out.
Mhm.
I climbed up Ben Nevis and back. That was a miserable experience. It was raining, had upward rain, had snow. This is in June, by the way,
Yeah.
and
You've got trainers and shorts
and
on, I'm sure.
I was so unfit. I did no preparation for that. I was sitting on a rock crying. I got top. I mean, I'd run out. I had 3 liters of water with me, and I'd finished it halfway up. And then I started drinking water out of the stream like a cow. And then I got to the top and thought, "Oh, that's it. It's going to be easy now." I'd never really done a big mountain before, so I was like skipping down like a mountain goat. My knees were fucked. And then all these old people with their sort of Norwegian Norse hiking poles were just strutting past, and they're like 70, and I'm just crying on a rock looking on my phone, see if I can get signal and find a number for the helicopter. And then there were these army guys running up with rucksacks, and I was thinking, I
Yeah.
hate all of you. And then I tried my first ever buck fast. I
Oh,
thought, well, while in Rome, when in Rome, do as the Romans do.
yeah, the
So
Roman
I
monks with
drank
Buckfast Abbey. Yeah.
yeah, I'd been drinking whiskey every night, and I thought, no, let's mix it up. Let's have some proper buckfast from, isn't it from Devon or Cornwall anyway? But only drunk in Scotland. Um, and then I got home to discover I'd got ticks and Lyme's disease. And I thought, you know what? I think I'm done with Scotland.
Is
It's
that
a long way away. And Wales, I haven't had any of these problems with Wales. It's closer, fewer ticks.
yeah, they the Lyme disease was from the ticks not drinking the water. And the midges, yeah. I mean, I haven't gone wild camping in
You
Scotland for
can't
many
defend them.
moons, but yeah, I okay. I'm gonna cut this bit out completely because I can't have you bad mouthing my country. I'm joking, it'll stay in. It was very
A
funny.
lovely country, it's a lovely country. But
Yeah.
as my dad said, as I said, I'm half Scottish, and my mother-in-law, she was very proudly Scottish, but moved away from there at the age of 18. And my dad's observation: how comes all the patriotic Scots move out of Scotland? She'll say how beautiful, how's the greenest, most beautiful country on earth, and she was like,
Yeah.
she'd be drinking a whiskey, getting more and more nostalgic about how wonderful Scotland was, until my dad told her to fuck off back to her croft, and then she that would be the end of it.
Yeah.
But no, I might visit one day, but I need to come. I need to go better prepared, and I'm thinking more a cozy cottage with a fire than a tent in a field of ticks and midges.
There's nothing worse than midges, and I just yeah, like one of my customers, they're actually going round the Scottish 500. They're in their 60s and 70s, so they're taking the car and they've booked all these hotels and Airbnb, so they're doing it in style, but they're going to see some beautiful sights. But yeah, I always forget about the midges, so thanks for reminding me on that. We stayed not New Year there, the New Year before we stayed in this tiny little cottage, little kind of like little house in the prairie, wooden shack cottage thing,
After
up near Aviemore for New Year, and it was just, it was absolutely sublime. It was paradise. But yeah, have you
Okay,
got
so
any?
maybe I'll keep it somewhere with walls, though. Somewhere with walls.
Yeah, someone with running water, electricity, and midgie repellent. Yeah, Michael, thank you so much for coming on. Have you got a final kind of thought for the listeners to leave us on?
Yeah, don't drink, you dirty slags.
That is
That
absolutely
was it.
correct, Michael. Yeah, no, I
I'm
love it.
quite philosophical.
Don't drink, you dirty slags. Yeah, it does exactly what it says in the tin. You know what I mean? They shouldn't be doing it,
Yeah,
and we've stopped it. We're on the other side of that fence, and we're just trying to bang the drum and say to people, listen, you know what? If you think you've got a problem with alcohol, then you probably
yeah,
fucking do.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael, thank you so much. I will put all your details for Happy Without the Hooch and all of that on the show notes. And this will be out in a couple of weeks, but I'll let you know as soon as it's going.
Okay,
And then
thank you very much.
cheers, Michael. You take it easy, mate. Thank you very much.
You
Bye
too.
bye.
It's been. Bye.
Bye. There we go. And that was Michael. Yeah, like, I mean, I take a lot from it as well, even though I'm, kind of was in quite a similar boat to Michael. But it's just these doing these podcasts really does help me to kind of cement my feet in the ground that recovery was the best choice for me. We don't really look back and kind of have regrets in what we've done, but we know that our life is in a much, much better place just by giving up one thing. So that's really the kind of underlying take from all of these podcasts. So I hope that people do kind of listen hard, listen for the similarities, not the differences. It's not a case of going, oh well, I didn't do that, so I'm not as bad as them. It's more like listening to what we've done, what Michael's done, that you can kind of go, yeah, you know what, my life is kind of a little bit similar to that. I can kind of resonate with that. So what we want to try and do is get people to nip it in the bud before it gets to a bad crescendo. The main thing from this is that it doesn't get better. If there is an issue with alcohol or drugs per se, it doesn't get better. It doesn't plateau. It only gets worse. So don't let it get to that point where you think, oh man, I should have done something like this, a year ago, 10 years ago. So just don't let it get to that point. Thank you to Michael. All his contacts and Instagram and all of that will be in the show notes. So yeah, please, take care when listening, or you have taken care when listened. But for all my future podcasts as well. Waffling a bit now, but so share, subscribe, follow, review, leave a little comment, just to let me know that you're enjoying it. And all the other ones are available on your favorite podcast platform. So yeah, stay safe, stay supportive, stay strong, and stay sober. Thanks, guys. Bye bye.